Hi, my name is Kristin and this is Kristin Kraves Books. So the new year is going to be here before we know it. I want to have a fresh start with my shelves. I always say that I want the shelves behind me well, that's a lie. Most of the books on the shelves behind me are books that I have read and loved. I try to just keep 4- and 5-star reads with a few exceptions, but I really want my shelves to be a reflection of the things I love. And for my TBR, I'm trying to change my mindset too. Why am I holding on to books I don't think are going to be favorites anymore? A lot of the ones I'm unhauling today are books that at the time that I bought them, I thought I was gonna love. I probably would have loved them at that time, but I'm just not that reader anymore. Some of them were unsolicited ARCs that I will put in the free little library close to me. Actually, a couple of the ARCs I know will go to good homes, and then there's some like finished copies publishers sent me as well, and then you're gonna see books in here that I've read and didn't like, so you'll get a little sneak peek into my worst books of the year, but I won't go into detail about those. I'll just show them to you, and it'll just be nice to have some room on my shelves. I'm going to do a video putting together a TBR card to all the books that I want to read in 2023, so look out for that probably after Christmas. So yeah, I like to go into New Year with a fresh mind, clean slate. Let's do this. So I bought The High Mountains of Portugal by Jan Martel in an airport years and years ago. Jan Martel wrote Life of Pi, which is one of my favorite books. Actually, it's one that I've reread many times, and I'm not a huge rereader, but the first time I think I was just too young for that book. I didn't understand it. Then the second time I read it, I loved it. And I've read it again since then, and I just think it's brilliant. So when I saw Jan Martel, I picked this up. Nobody ever seems to talk about this one. I know nothing about it. It's not really something that calls to me anymore, and I actually know somebody who I think will love this, and it's just time for me to let it go. It's been years. It's not gonna happen. I won't make it a priority, so that has to go. This is an ARC that I tried to read, and I just couldn't get into it. But again, I think that historical fiction readers in my life will really love this, and this is The Brideship Wife by Leslie Howard, and this is about one woman's coming of age and search for independence, inspired by the history of British brideships. So I think there's something interesting in that. I just couldn't get into it, so put that in the free little library or give that to somebody in my life. Another ARC that I tried to read is The Coming Storm, and this has a really cool cover. That is part of why I've held on to this for so long. This came out in May 2021, and I haven't been able to get through it. And I just think it'll be better in somebody else's hands. Why do I own this book? The Absolute Book by Elizabeth Knox. I think this is probably a really good book, but it is fantasy and it is massive. I'm not gonna commit to this. This is just not me, but it is such a pretty cover. I don't even know where this came from, to be honest with you. How many pages? It's only just over 600. It looks scarier than it probably is, but I haven't heard much about this. Yeah, a fantasy epic. I just have so many fantasies that I have to commit to before I would ever get to this one, and it's just not my typical genre, so I'm gonna pass that on. The Last Mrs. Parrish is probably something I bought at Walmart or Costco. You know, I tend to do that. This came out a few years ago. It is a thriller or a mystery, and I'm very picky about my thrillers and mysteries now, and I just don't think that this is one that I will ever prioritize, so it's gotta go. But I do have friends that like thrillers and will probably appreciate that. And on that same note, I just don't think I am a Leanne Moriarty fan anymore. This is 3 Wishes. I like Big Little Lies, but that's pretty much the only one that's really stayed with me. So it's kind of like domestic thrillers is just not what I'm looking for in thrillers anymore, or mysteries, so that can go to somebody else. This is one that I think Penguin sent to me randomly, The Waiting Hours by Shondi Mitchell. I know nothing about this, but I've had it sitting on my TBR cart for years. If you have read this and it's good, let me know, because I've honestly never heard anything about it, but I think the cover is intriguing. This one hurts because I've had this on my shelf for 10 years. I really wanted to love it. I finally read it this year and it just did not work for me at all, and this is American Gods. This is the 10th anniversary edition. And I'm sad to take it off my shelves, but it's really yellow just from like sitting there and not being read, and I just wanted to love it and I didn't. So some Neil Gaiman fan will be happy to find this 10th anniversary edition in the free little library. I was sent an ARC of The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont, and I read it this year and I didn't love it. You think that you're getting something about the time that Agatha Christie goes missing, and you are, but it's from the perspective of her husband's mistress, and I just didn't care. Why was I getting her perspective? So it wasn't my favorite thing. Trust me, you'll be seeing this in a future video, but the Made by Nina Prose I just had a lot of issues with, so I'm happy to remove that from my shelves. Lulu and Milla Gross Search for Clarity. I read this arc and it was really sweet. I just know somebody in my life who will appreciate this, and I'm excited to give it to them. But this is a good story. If you're looking for a YA contemporary about sisterhood, pick that one up. It's a really cute one, and I don't think it got a lot of attention. And then sometimes I'm sent these unsolicited like nonfiction books, and I know nothing about them, and I prefer to listen to my nonfiction on audio. So if you have read The King's Shadow, let me know, because maybe I'll download the audiobook. This is Obsession, Betrayal, and the Deadly Quest for the Lost City of Alexandria. So there's potential there. I just know I would never sit down and physically read this, but I'm open to listening to it if it's good. Here's a book that I was sent from the author, and I actually thought that this was kind of fun. It was an interesting premise. I just don't need it on my shelves. It's The Ex-Boyfriend's Yard Sale by Haley McGee, Finding the Formula for the Cost of Love. So the author went and interviewed all her ex-boyfriends, and like there's some formulas in here for the cost of like love, not over my ex. There's a lot going on in here. It's kind of a fun time. So I think somebody will enjoy that. And then again, I have another one of these nonfictions. This is Eris's The Lives of the $1 Million Babies. Another one that I think has potential. I like the premise of it, but I would download the audiobook. This one, it probably won't be on my most disappointing. I just didn't love it. And this is The Night Shift by Alex Finlay. I really wanted it to lean more into the blockbuster part of the story, the part in the past, but we really just got small glimpses of that. I saw who the killer was really early on, so happy to pass that one along. Three Scissors by Heather Morris was sent to me. This is a gorgeous copy. It was nice that they sent it to me. Look at the inside pages. But again, this is not the kind of historical fiction that I am drawn to anymore, but I do know people who are, so I'm excited to give this to somebody who will really appreciate it. This one I'm torn about, because I've had this on my shelves for so long and I just never prioritize it, and I don't know if it's my thing anymore. It does sound really good, and I've heard it's incredible. It's You'll Miss Me When I'm Gone by Rachel Lynn Solomon. And Rachel Lynn Solomon writes like Weather Girl, what's that other one? She does like adult romances now, but this is like a YA hard-hitting contemporary about twins, and I think one of them is diagnosed with Huntington's disease and everything that they have to go through. And I've heard it's heartbreaking. I've just had this on my shelves for many, many years now, and I've never picked it up. So I think it's best to give it to somebody who will actually appreciate it. And in that same vein, we have Letters to the Lost by Bridget Kemmerer. I think this is another like hard-hitting YA contemporary, and I've just become really picky about those, and I just don't pick them up often. I've had this on my shelves for ages, and I think this is actually kind of a romance between these two characters who leave each other letters on a gravestone, so I think it might be really moving. I just know I haven't gotten to it in all this time. I never will. I found We Were the Mulvaneys by Joyce Carol Oates in a free little library near me, and it's going right back in there. I thought maybe I'd be a Joyce Carol Oates girl. I'm just not, so I will never read this. I've tried a couple of times. It's just not my thing. Somebody will be happy to find it in that little free library again. I went through a period where I was bad about just picking up books at a used bookstore because I had heard of them, and this is See What I Have Done by Sarah Schmidt. I actually think this is about Lizzie Borden, but I haven't heard the best things. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she'd done, she gave her father 41, or did she? The premise sounds interesting. I just haven't heard the greatest things about this, but if you have read this and think I might like it, let me know, because I think I could be swayed on that one. I didn't realize I had two Bridget Kemmerer books on here, but this is A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and I've tried to read this a couple of times. If you know me, you know I'm just, the Beauty and the Beast trope is a hard sell for me, so I just couldn't get into this. I've actually heard that this is the best in the series, and people don't seem to like the other two books. I'm in the middle of so many series, best to just hand this off to somebody, and it's actually a hardcover, so I feel like people might be looking for that. So yeah, I'm just, oh, there's a bookmark in here. Let me see. Look how far I got, 12 pages. So yeah, it's just not the one for me. The Falconers, this is objectively a good book. This is by Elizabeth May. Just not my thing. I'm not into fays. I've just had to accept that about myself this year, even though I really want to be somebody who loves fae stories. It's just not me. need to let it go. But this, if you are into faith stories, I think you would really like this. It's set in Scotland. It's historical fantasy, 1844. And yeah, it does some interesting things. It's just not to my taste. It's just not something I like, but objectively, I think this is a good book. I'm Sarah from Bright and Bookish. Look away. I am going to unhaul Hedge, and not because this is a bad book. I just don't think it's one that I'm going to reference at all or recommend much or talk about much, or one that really brings me joy when I see it on my shelf. It's a 3-star for me. I'm really trying to just keep 4 and 5 stars, but again, this is one that I can see the merit in this. I loved the premise. It just has me questioning if I'm a superhero girl. I like superhero movies. I just don't know if I like superhero books, so I'll have to test that and see, but just wasn't my favorite. Might as well do these all at once. I've lent The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hugo to my mom, and I'll probably just let her keep that. I'm also unhauling Daisy Jones and the Six and Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. These don't bring me joy anymore. I enjoyed them at the time that I read them, but I just don't see myself talking about them on the channel, referencing them, ever wanting to pick them up again. They just are not my favorite. I've tried some of Taylor Jenkins Reid's more backlist books and haven't loved them. I don't think I will read Carrie Soto, so there's just no need for me to hold on to these. They're just taking up space and not bringing me joy on the shelf. So someone's gonna be thrilled to have these though. They are nice, and maybe I'll see if my mom wants them, but yeah, just time to go. 2 more and then I'll let you go. Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough. Again, I've been on a journey this year with the kind of thrillers I like. This is not it. Domestic thrillers are just not my thing. I had a lot of issues with this one. I actually thought it was quite boring. It's just not for me. So again, lots of people in my life love thrillers, and I'll be happy to have this, and I'll be happy to pass it along. And the thing is, I wanted to read Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, but the ending of that was spoiled for me, so I never got to it, and I've been bitter about that ever since. Then the last one is Lessons in Chemistry, and as you can see, I have read this. I've tabbed it and everything. I did need coordinating tabs. This is one that I enjoyed in the moment that I read it. I think I gave it a 3-star, so really I shouldn't have it on my shelves either way. But it's one that as time has gone by, I seem to like it less and less. The things that I remember about it are the things I didn't like about it. And I don't know, it just doesn't have any staying power for me. It's actually like diminishing with time. I don't think this cover, as much as I love this cover and like the brightness of this cover, I don't think it matches the tone of the story. So I am just best to pass it on to somebody who's really, really gonna love this. And somebody who wants to read it before the movie comes out, because we are getting a movie adaptation of that one. So those are all of the books that I am unhauling. I would love to know if you like to do an unhaul in December and clear off your shelves. It is so nice. Now, it's one thing to unhaul them, it's another thing to actually remove them from my home. But I'll have to save a couple of them so I can talk about them in my most disappointing or worst books of the year. So again, thank you for your support. I think I'll see you one more time before Christmas. I just cannot believe Christmas is almost here. So thanks for your support. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.